We're going to be looking at the following code. I have some code in here in case it ever pops out, but that's just for a previous assignment that we've done. For this one, we're inside of a public class main. We have our public static void main inside of here, so this is our main method, and we have some other methods inside of here. It's probably good to make them public or private, but this is just for an example. So here we have double overloaded method, and this is taking a double d as a parameter, and then we're going to return d times equal to our d. Next we have an integer overload method. We can see that this is overloading since it has the exact same name, but it takes and returns different things. So we have int I inside of here, and then we're going to return overload method, and then we're passing in I is equal to I times I. That's basically what it's saying here. I times equal to I is basically I is equal to I times I. Lastly, we have a float overloaded method, where we take in a float and we return the overloaded method where f is equal to f times f. Now, in our public static void main, we have these string arguments. We are going to make an instance of our main class right here. And with this, we kind of inherit all of these. We're able to, not inherit, but call them. So we call this right here, we do main.overload method. Now these are all the same, so what we pass in is going to depend on what gets called. We can see that we pass in 100. So let's actually run this. We're going to run our public static void main here. Clicking run, we're actually going to get an error, an overload. And this is because, if we scroll all the way up here, we have an overflow error. Not to overload, it's called overflow. Our method is overload, but the error is overflow. We can create a breakpoint here and possibly look at this, but the reason why this is happening is because we're passing in 100, right? And 100 is an integer type. I is equal to 100, so it's going to call this right here. Now calling this, what's going to happen is we're returning our overloaded method, and we're passing the I times equals I in here. So basically what's happening, if we were to step through this code, we have this 100, and we have I, we have this int I, and this I is going to be equal to 100 times 100. But this is going to recursively call our overloaded method. So we're then going to call this method inside of here. So calling this method inside of here, we're going to continuously call it. And so that's how we get overflow, because it's going to infinitely run. Now, a way we could fix this, if we wanted to, is have an if statement. And in this if statement, we're going to say, well, if I is, we'll just say greater than 10 or 100,000, then we are just going to return our I. And this should break out of it, because that means we won't be running forever. This if statement is checked every single time that this is called. And if this ever happens to be over 100,000, we are just going to return. So we can try to run our main again, and it should be okay. We see that we have a value here, and we don't have an overflow from our overload methods. So that is how we would look at overloading, how we could fix it with against recursion with like an if statement to check a condition. And that's how we would solve for this example. The original question was, what will be the outcome of the below program as well?